Divine Rise. Blessed be to your day. May it be everything that you require to create everything you desire. If you looked up and down my timeline, you've seen I made a bunch of posts. I made a mass amount of posts and videos and a whole bunch of things. But there was a reason for that, because it's a part of my design. It's part of my design. Do you know what your design? Do you know what your design is? Your human design. The narrative of, do you know what your human design is? There's 5 types. There's actually 5 types. One type, or the cheap one type, which is actually one of the rarest types, is a dual type, and that is what I am. I'm a manifesting generator. This short burst we're gonna get into, because throughout the week I'm gonna give a nice short overview to each one of the designs and how they all work. We all have the power to manifest. We all have the power to generate. We all have the power to project. We all have the power to be very reflective. But the key to tapping into the limitless potential, I like the way that sounds. The key to tap into the limitless potential of your using each design archetype is understanding what your chief archetype is. For me, I'm a manifestor generator. It's a dual type of the manifestor and the generator. The manifesting archetype design is designed to inform, is to impact through informing and responding and transmuting through response. That's what a manifestor generator does. The manifestor is the informing and the impacting. The generator is the response and the building. The projector is the curator and the formulator. And the reflector is the mirror, or the reflector is the mirror or the absorber. So now you start to look at your life. Aspects in your life, people in your life, similar to your natal chart. That's one bit of information. Then you can go to Ancestry.com and go get your ancestral line. Oh, you know your history. Okay. But do you understand your DNA? Do you understand your DNA and how your DNA formulates and communicates? Do you understand what the 13 gates are? 13 gates. The 13 great gates. The 64 codons. The 64 lines and gates of your design. Do you understand how they all go together? Do you understand that you have a profile? You have a profile number that's composed of 2 different numbers. My profile number, for example, is 35, the martyr heretic. That means, if you understand what the definition of a martyr is, through sacrifice, in understanding sacrifice, to acquire information, to formulate, create information, to inform, to impact, to change, and then become the heretic is the one to be able to speak throughout the bias of that sacrifice, sacrificing the bias. Also, did you know that you have the cross? See, there's a lot of things that we shut down that I've learned, that as I'm learning, you go back and learn, and you go back through pivots. There's a lot of things that you shut down, such as the cross. The cross is broken down into the 4s within your chart to understand which aspect and which part of your profile of your design it's which ones to be doing. Initiation, manifestation, reflection, creation. Each one of these aspects all come together to design you. Each one of these aspects come together to design you. So do you know your design? Do you know that the not self of your design, most of the designs is frustration? The guidepost. So understanding your emotions. It's all inside of your design. Before I get into breaking that down, when it comes to you coming to me for service, when it comes to you coming to me for services, whether it's a reading, whether it's you get a natal chart from me, whether it's you get a human design chart from me, which is now available, the post is on my timeline, and you come get a human design from me, or you get a shadow work consultation, you go through shadow work therapy or mentorship or any of these aspects, every point, every service that I provide reflects in the things that I do, the things that, what I administer in our session. Manifest and generate. You can, in creating your space, it's based on your design. In frustration, impatience, things of that narrative, a lot of times when you're thinking about we'll start with the generator. Today we'll build on the generator. You're thinking about with the generator aspect. The generator is to respond. Therefore, it's to be invited. So now you look at your space as a generator, for example. A generator is to respond, i.e. to be invited into a space. So now when you're looking at your design, when you start understanding your design, if you're a generator, and the way that we find your design is the same way you do your natal chart. Let's say you're a generator, for example, and your chief personality is peace. Your chief personality is to respond or to be invited. So now when you look at your life, to escape, you're doing your internal work, look into the spaces based on your response. Remember, I'm always talking about reaction versus response. Now you think about the spaces you go into based on that emotional aspect. So you responded to an emotional aspect inside of a space. You were invited based onto the overline of our emotion. So let's say you go into a space and you went there based on the response of you being angry. So you went into this space and you found anger. That's part of everything that you're doing inside of that space, everything that you cultivate into your day is based on your design. Being a generator, you're a builder. You respond. You go step by step. You need the steps. You need to be engaged over and over and over again. This goes into the sacral center. When you think about a generator, most generators in a single type, they have a single definition. Your single definition means you have one operating motor. The main thing for a generator is the sacral chakra, the feeling. So now you look at your responses based on the feeling. Understanding your emotions based on the feeling. So you'll do something based on feeling. Am I doing it in reaction? That means I'm doing it because I'm angry. That means usually when I'm no longer angry, I don't do it anymore. Versus I feel this anger. I feel this emotion. Let me understand this emotion. That'll be the first key into your response. See, that's all into the design. Similar to this, let's jump into the manifestor aspect. Let's go into the manifestor. The manifestor, the ability to create. The ability to create stories, to create out of thin air, the ability to inform, and the ability to impact. They're always impactful. The frustration type, when a manifestor is frustrated, it's usually because they got to go back and look at steps. So when you look, if you don't know what your design is, you may be a manifestor, but you don't understand your design. Think about it like this. You go into a space, you create something inside a space, whether you created a business, you're designing the aspects inside it, decorating your home, whatever you're building, your key is going to be patience. Because a manifestor can jump from point A to point C to point F and come all the way back. Your idea, so if a generator comes into your space, it's how we deal with people that come into our spaces. So someone might come into your space that's a generator that needs information. As a manifestor, you generate information. As a manifestor, you create the streams of the thought. So that manifestor, which is going to teach you patience. Or you can be a projector. We're going through them real fast, but there's a reason we're doing this. You can be a projector type. Your design type can be a projector. A projector is to curate and to formulate. So think about yourself into this aspect. Your not self theme would be all of these. The key non-self theme is frustration. So if you find yourself if you don't know you're designing, you're a projector, and you curate, you like the research information, you like to build pamphlets, you can take in a bunch of information and you can formulate plans and ideas. But now you're wondering why no one listens to your ideas. Because the idea of a projector is to create and curate, create, put it out there and allow people to, I like that idea. Let me talk to you. Let's build on something. Idea of a projector. Or to the reflector. The reflector is actually one of the rarest archetypes. It's the second rarest archetype. The reflector design type. Do you see yourself mirroring a lot of things? Do you find yourself, or have you ever found yourself when you're inside of a space, you're only doing things based on, you're really keen on how people feel and you reflect their feelings to them? Or when somebody's in a good mood, you reflect that good mood and you do those things and you find yourself catching on to those things. You find yourself absorbing. When it comes to your learning style, you like to absorb a lot of things. You like to sit with it for a little while. You may be a reflector. The not self theme of a reflector being frustrated is when the reflection is not met, when the reflection is not seen. See, each one of our design archetypes is the key. Each one of your design types is the key to how you work with these peace. The key to your design, the key to your human design type is going to be the key to how you deal with your personalities and your houses and the retrogrades that you see inside of your natal chart. Use an example. Me being a manifestor generator. It's a dual archetype. When I look at my natal chart, my north node is Gemini, a dual archetype. So when I study the points of the dual nature, also as a manifestor generator, I can see that I have I actually have a triple definition in my profile type, in my design type. That means my sacral chakra connects to my throat chakra and my heart chakra. Actually, mine goes straight up the line. So now when I'm looking at my path and my actions, based on feeling, based on the path of my heart, the blockages in my heart, design how I speak, design how I manifest, design what I bring into my space. That's all in my design. Also, when I look at my cross and I look at how my profile goes into this space and how I design, how my DNA, my comprehension in my DNA, how I comprehend, how I communicate, it's all based into the DNA. See, one thing that I had to understand, one thing that I understood now that I'm going into the understanding with, it does you no good to only take bits and pieces. This is what I mean by study all and follow none. It's like everything is something that you need. So a lot of times when we go into the space of, you can get mad about Ancestry.com and say, nigga, Ancestry.com, they just want your DNA and they're going to send you some shit. They only can give you only need to use what you need to use from it anyway. Take it for what it is. Because with your Ancestry.com DNA, without that human design, I don't understand the 13 gates. I don't understand the 64 codons or the 64 lines. The 13 gates and the 64 lines. Or my emotions. Or how I communicate to each one of these motors inside of myself. How I activate through my sacral chakra if I don't feel it. My emotional intelligence, going back to when you're doing we do this internal work. And I ask you about give me a time in your past, give me a time in your childhood where you were told that you had to go in your room and be quiet. And from that moment in time, the way that you were probably using your sacral center, feeling, sound, words, communicating through sounds. Maybe you hummed a lot, you danced a lot, or you were very expressive in emotions. At age 5, 6, you were taught how to shut down your sacral center. So as you grew older, with this blockage in your sacral center, your feelings are biased. So now you're stuck within, now we go to the profile. You were stuck in your profile, mine being a 3-5. You got stuck in the martyr complex. You got stuck in being the sacrificial. You got stuck in everybody bringing things to you. But the other half of your profile is your design. To learn your ultimate design is 5. For me, being a heretic, to be able to speak without a bias, to be able to formulate and create new ways of being practical, of being simplifying things. All of this is in your design. See, it's one thing to, you're a god. It's another thing to say you're a goddess and you're all of these things. But there's still work to be done. The key that when I'm always breaking it down, when you're breaking yourself down, when you're emptying yourself to really look inside of yourself, when you're starting to rebuild, the tools make more sense. The tools don't make sense until you start doing the shadow work. The shadow work is the synonymous factor of everything that you're going to be doing. Your shadow work is the synonymous aspect of everything that you're doing. It aspects of your healing, how you take on things, removing the biases, becoming impartial, even into when I talk about the LLC mentality. I've talked, like, they're synonymous. My emotions, my emotional intelligence, my emotional literacy is a byproduct of my financial literacy. So since my emotions are the byproduct of my emotional literacy is my financial literacy, then family banking, whole life insurance policies, contracts, LLCs, businesses, all based in my emotions. But if I don't understand the emotional gates in my design, I could be going against my design and how I create. You can get real tired if you're sitting there making a bunch of posts and selling your business in a certain way, or selling whatever you're trying to sell in a certain way, and you're doing it from the manifesting aspect. I mean, you're trying to create it. You're not listening to, but you might be a generator. Generator is the reformer, is the response. So you create based on what you see, what's already inside of the space. So you keep trying to create these multitudes when very well your baseline to build your foundation is to take something that was already created and learn how to maximize it. Through that, you learn how to create more. As opposed to a manifester, you're looking at somebody that you get mad at, somebody that seems to be manifesting everything in their life, creating everything in all these streams. They may be a manifester. Their job is to inform and impact. Instead of you getting disheartened with them, allow the trigger to happen, but now you got to look at it like this. If they're able to manifest all of these things, what have they created? What information can I receive from this? They're informing me. They're setting an impact. How can I get the information? That's your response. As opposed to, you can be out here burning yourself out, doing so much work for everybody else, but never doing the work for yourself because you may be a projector. A projector is the curator. A projector is the researcher aspect of yourself. That means you may sit down and you may sit there and you may write out different books and different plans. You in there looking like Michael, you in there writing out different plans, different books. You can write up a movie script, write up an invention idea, and you can just post that idea. Post that idea with that same amount of energy. The manifestor will see that based on their creation. Ooh, I can use that. Let's have a conversation. The generator looks at that based on the building, the aspects of the building to it, going through the plans. Ooh, let's get together and do that. The reflector, based on the mirroring, how it makes people feel, the impact of how it makes people feel, absorbs it. You see how you can now work alongside with each side of the design? Everything's in the play that it needs to be in. But when we get stuck in these, this is why I always talk about, you're not getting emotional. You're looking at it based on emotional relevance. So a lot of times when you're trying to create something or move to this new space or stretch to a new space, and you're looking at the new old alliances, you got to look at your team. You got to look at what's around you. But you got to look from the basis of where you're at. So if I don't know my design and I'm around people, that's like if I don't know my design, as that example. Before I didn't know my design. So now when I look back at my life and I'm doing internal work and I look back at my life, I can realize that when I was most happy, I was creating things. When I was most happy, I was in a state of being creative. I was in a state of impacting, being informing, whether I was telling jokes or telling a dark ass joke. I was always making something with an impact. I was always basing my life on impact. That's when I was most happy. And when I wasn't happy, it was because I was trying to build things based on what was already there. See how you start understanding your design more. You start shedding those layers of that reaction. So now you like, oh shit, now it makes sense to why I could do this and not that. Everything, you're deserving. I always say this all the time. You are deserving. You are deserving to be the best. You're deserving of everything that you desire. But you're not entitled to it. Your design, in this context, your design sets the tone to what you are able to build. Remember, you can tap into all 4 design archetypes. But until you understand your design, you can't understand how to use the other archetypes. You can't understand how to use the state of manipulation of each type. You'll always find yourself at a deadlock, your purpose. You always find yourself fighting up against a current because you're not sitting there. As the manifestor sits and creates, the generator builds, the projector curates and formulates, and the reflector absorbs. Understanding your type, understanding your design type is going to be the key. Throughout the week, every week we got a different line of classes. Throughout the week, we're going to get into a brief overview of each design type in full. That's why I went so fast today. We're going to get into a brief explanation of each archetype, give some nice examples, and build like that. But until then, if you're interested in getting a comprehensive human design analysis or consultation or a reading, whichever one of my services, go ahead, hit me in the inbox, ask the questions, ask your questions with the intent to go forward. Because as always, I desire you to be the fucking best. Last week also, before we close out, last week on the God Hour podcast, if you have not tuned in to tap out, it's out now. We got into the insidious interpretation or existing inside your argument. This week, we're going to get into the immaculate agreement. Based on your argument and you dissolving and understanding that argument, based on you dissolving and understanding that argument, is how you create the immaculate agreement. Your ultimate agreement of how you agree to move throughout your life. That also goes into your human design. You are deserving to be the fucking best. You are deserving to be the fucking best. But you're not entitled. You got to put in that work. Where you start is based on, are you ready for the accountability? I talked about that yesterday. Ambition without accountability is obsession. Ambition without accountability, self-accountability, responsibility in self, becoming the observer of self, is nothing but an obsession. It's time to start obsessing, and it's time to start progressing. Desire you to be the best. I love you. We love us. Ashe.